The lights on. It's time to start. I'm sorry. Well, go ahead and get started. We don't have to call the rules.
So first up in the work session is a 90-day and a proposed 90-day extension to our current agreement for parking management services. The timing of the bids came in right around Christmas. We had a strong response, which is a good thing. It also meant that we had a lot of dissimilar proposals that we were trying to put together apples to apples comparisons for. So we weren't able to get a strong recommendation for you guys prior to tonight's meeting. So we're asking that the parking contract renewal be moved to the February meeting. That contract does expire at the end of this month. Our current provider has agreed to a 9-day extension as drafted here by Judge.
That gives us time to have a meeting in February plus an overlap of services.
Should it be needed.
Yeah.
Any questions? All right. Thanks for coming, man. We'll later they'll vote on it, and after they vote on it, we'll get it signed it back to you guys.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So, really quickly.
Board of Zoning Appeals, Ms. Stevens. I've been wanting to say that to you here on the spot.
You've been wanting to say what?
Ms. Stevens, it's your turn.
It's my turn. Board of Zoning Appeals. I have given you a memo with a list of all the other municipalities in the county and what they charge for a fee to apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I've also submitted an application. This is something that I'd like you to review. That's per the ordinance that you'll need to review the form and contents of any applications. It's pretty standard to charge a fee. It's a modest fee to cover to recoup a small portion of the costs that we incur to hold a BZA meeting. And the application is just straight from the ordinance. I think it makes my job easier, but it also makes the applicants, the application process easier. It gives them a little bit of guidance on what information they need to submit to us in order to apply for a variance to the BZA. Any questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I do as well. So in my 3 years of serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals, we had 3 hearings. I know they happen more frequently now than they likely did then. However, 2 of those hearings were from the same applicant. So in the event that, for some reason, in meeting 1, the BZA doesn't make a decision, that person has to come back at the next month or the month after. Is that still part of the same application fee?
Well, there is a requirement. Was that like a deferral, or was that an absolute new application? Because there's a timeline in the ordinance that you have to wait 6 months or something to apply again.
I don't remember the particulars. I know the address, roughly speaking, and Eric probably would know. We actually voted on it, and for some reason it came back in relatively short order.
303 started.
Yes.
There was a fault in the advertising that had the wrong TMS number, so we had to redo the hearing because of a mistake on our end.
Then I would suggest that should only be required to have one. And if the BZA said we defer this for some reason and it came back. But I think if they are denied and have a completely new application, 6 months or whatever the time, 12 months, whatever they have to wait, that would be a new application with a new fee.
I agree. If it's our fault, we should own it, pay for it. And if it's just a reapplication, or if it had a grave error on their part, then they should have to pay again.
Because there is a process to determine sufficiency. When they apply, I go through and make sure, there's a back and forth. Make sure you turn in this site plan, or did you show this? And we make sure we get out their information before you go on the BZA. So, if they're applying for a second time, that means it's something drastic has changed. It's a different application. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Chief Fury and Eric Lutz.
Well, Eric could probably talk better about the scope, but this kind of came along. We were trying to do figure out what was going on with some condensation that was constantly dripping through the drop ceiling. So we brought in some professionals to determine, what was causing that, what we could do to mitigate that. And in the process, we, as you know, during the last budget cycle, y'all approved the new flooring and the new kitchen cabinetry for the fire station. Well, obviously it didn't make a whole lot of sense to go through with that work when we were dripping water out of the ceiling. So what you guys have in front of you tonight is basically a plan to do the work simultaneously. I think it's advantageous for a number of reasons. And the solution that's been come up with, I'm sure these guys can probably talk about it a lot more than I can, but that's the general process behind what's going on.
Just to back up what Andrew's saying, back in around 2019, I think we noticed the first signs of a little bit of a problem. Even before what my timeline I put in the memo, we started in 20, but each hot season it started getting worse. This last summer it was literally at times almost raining down on the guys that are on duty in the firehouse. Not to the point of needing a rain jacket, but maybe an umbrella, a couple times. So we started looking into it, got in touch with the architect that did the original design of the building. They came out and gave us a scope of what they thought might be the problem. We took that scope. Around the same time, we got introduced to this company called Gordian. Ryan Keegan here is behind me. I went through a process to vet their whole concept. I think Lee and Ryan can speak better to their whole process, but basically we decided it was a real good fit. They're already on a government contract situation with Dorchester County, and it allowed us to let them bid out the complete scope, including the floor and the cabinet replacement. So what we have is a solution to the moisture problems, the envelope, bringing hot humid air in the summertime into the cavity, and it was condensating in the ceiling up against the metal deck that's above the ceiling. Their team, they're the construction manager essentially, and they brought contractors in and they do all their pricing by standard cost data that's already been vetted by the state, by the county, I think. So it allows for a pretty efficient and competitive process. I don't know if there's anything on the memo or timeline that you have a question about.
I know the ductwork is original to the building, correct?
Yes, 2010.
Okay, and how old is the current HVAC system itself?
The system that controls that whole level is also 2010.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the only unit that didn't get replaced 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I went to the bottom line, and Mr. Gessner and Mr. Pope were really extremely helpful as far as the specifics, the numbers, essentially math. So are we saying that this will straddle both budget years, that we're going to do it in this budget year and figure it out?
We're requesting that you all approve us to do it this budget year.
Now, and then you'll be ready for the summer with the HV. Okay, so then in light of that, so you have money, and then we have money we're gonna find, and we have reserve. Am I wrong?
Right, we're coming to ask you for a little over 90,000 in unbudgeted funds.
Right, so in that instance, I'm learning too. Unbudgeted, what do we do?
So that would be unrestricted general.
Unrestricted.
General funds, right? So, basically that's what they're there for. For instances like this where we have a project that we had originally thought, okay, we're gonna do some basic modifications, upgrades, that'll keep us going for another couple of years, and then this came along and it just said, all right, if we're gonna spend the money and put a Band-Aid on this, it's not.
Yeah.
So let's just approach council and say, okay, it is what it is.
It's not gonna get cheaper either.
No.
It's most likely it won't get any cheaper.
And how much is in that fund?
Right now, unrestricted cash is right around 5 million.
Oh.
Yeah. And we're obligated by our ordinance to maintain at least a $2 billion level.
Right, so that makes sense.
We need to change that. We need to change that to 3.
FY20.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it makes sense with the value of the dollar.
Just, summertime's coming.
Yeah.
And I've been in the firehouse and it is moist and
And it's very likely that it won't get any better, it'll only get worse
Okay.
if we go through another whole.
not to mention mold and health issues and.
Possibility.
I had the same questions that Dr. Houghton did, because I hate stuff that comes up in the middle of the budget. I like to plan on it with the budget, but it makes no sense to redo floors, cabinets, and countertops and have them get ruined in 6 months. So, while I hate doing stuff mid-budget, I also hate screwing up brand new stuff. So I think it's a good idea. It's not a wanna have, it's a have to have.
Well, and along with that too, the impact to the firefighters and operations, once you start tearing up things, you might as well do as much as you possibly can, because they're gonna have to move out of that building temporarily.
Well, we don't want mold to get going.
No, so far, so good. We've avoided that so far, but it's inevitable that'll be next. If we keep having the moisture.
It looks like the total amount's 119,300.
Right, so we budgeted. Get to.
I don't remember. He probably knows all.
So between two line items, we had 26,500 already in this year's budget for the flooring and the new cabinets. So this 119,300 quote for the flooring, cabinets, and air conditioning is $92,800 in unbudgeted money.
Not 90,000, 92,000. That makes sense, because that makes the math work. Okay.
Yep.
I rounded to 90 when I said that.
Well, you can't be rounding when I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about.
Unless you can
Okay.
do it for 90,000.
That makes it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a million.
92,000.
Okay. So where are we gonna move them all to? Andrew's house while we're doing
I think
this, or
so,
what?
I think that's the plan.
Lee has an apartment.
Yeah, that's right. They could all, camp out in my yard.
Park the trucks in the backyard,
Um,
or just run down the street and get them?
Yeah.
We're looking at a couple different options, we don't really have it all figured out yet. We want to get through this tonight first, and then we'll,
How long do you think it'll take? You talk about.
Ryan, you have the bias schedule?
I don't have a schedule on it. It's gonna be lead time on those cabinets, it's gonna be the biggest issue.
They'll be the last thing to go in there, so
Well,
make it
but-
functional.
But for the part that they have to be out for, it's probably more the overhead ductwork. So once you get that kind of fixed, cabinets can come 6 months later if they have to.
Right.
They can move back in
Yeah,
and,
I think they were planning on like a month or two was
okay.
the thought process.
So they're gonna stay in some Airbnbs?
We got a couple ideas that we're looking at.
We're gonna put cots in this equipment room.
Maybe we find a short-term rental for them.
Well, that'll make it a long-term rental.
Yeah.
30 days.
More than 30 days, that's right. Okay,
Time of year, is it possible to stay away from the peak season?
We want to start we're gonna start the ball rolling immediately after.
as soon as you vote for it, they're gonna start tomorrow,
Fantastic.
I'm sure.
We definitely want to get it done before the busy season again.
Thank you. And now, you're still up.
Yep. So one of the things you guys have on the agenda is a request to use some miscellaneous sales revenue that was generated from selling obsolete or items that are unused. And we did that. It generated just under, I think it was like 15,500. Most of the items that we sold, I had gotten through a military surplus program, free of charge. It didn't cost the city anything. None of the items that were sold or obsolete were listed on our asset paperwork or asset chart. So this is just miscellaneous sales fund. So I'm requesting a portion of that, $14,732, to replace some aging and non-functioning beach patrol carts with 3 ATVs at less than state contract pricing. They are name brand, not anything like that. We do still plus up in the summertime with rented carts. We just have to maintain the coverage that y'all expect. But during the off season, it's much too expensive to continue to rent, so that's when we rely on stuff that we use in-house. So that's the request. So These are funds that, again, we earned for selling obsolete items, most of which y'all didn't even pay for. So I'm requesting those funds to use to get those cards.
Is there a trade value of the ones that we're not using?
That's correct.
Is that included in
That
that?
is included in that cost, yes.
We have a little bit of money left over.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Wes, you can hardly wait. You've run down here.
Yes, I get to come on this side now. So tonight on the regular agenda, we have our RFP 8, a AV uplift for this room. As you can tell, we desperately need this. We were tasked to work with BC3, our IT company, to fulfill the needs for council. We put it out for bid. We had one bidder, NCI, come in and bid. They have come into smaller municipalities before and worked with a situation like ours that want to kind of rebuild their whole communication for council to public. So I can go through what is proposed. I did include in the agenda, the regular agenda, what is going to be outfitted. There are some cost savings. We are going to be able to use part of the already used equipment in the back hallway. We'll be able to use that. We will be bringing in some new equipment as well.
And what do you plan on doing with this equipment?
So really within this room, the equipment that's going to be leaving will be that camera. It's no longer functional.
Okay.
So we'll be replacing that, rewiring. The TVs will be staying, they will be utilized. The microphones will also be staying, they are good quality. It's a lot of software and a additional computer where I sit, so where I can kind of produce and control the meeting from in here. And it will also spill out into our boards and commissions where, let's say, planning commission, the liaison can hit play, it starts streaming, recording. So we're trying to really streamline this process for staff other than.
Is this gonna give us, excuse me, is this gonna give us an opportunity for Zoom meetings or Zoom court meetings?
Yes, there is a streaming and communication aspect to it.
Mr. Green. Total process. So this list, was it generated by the users of the room as far as process?
Yes, so we, I walked around this room several times and I'm from one plug to another all the way around, and made a list of what needs to be replaced, what our council's needs, what our boards and commissions and the community's needs. We compiled all of that. A lot of it, NCI addressed, it doesn't look like because it's a lot of software needs,
Okay.
but they are in there.
Why only one bid?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just, we did get one bid to this most recent RFP, but we are here doing an RFP because last year we got multiple bids and they came in so high. This actually is higher than those bids, but we only had $15,000 in the budget. And when we budgeted it and it came back way more, there was no way we could make it fit within our procurement process without going back again. Was it almost a year later? Well, 6 months later or so. And at that point, BC3 helped us with the bidding and they arranged the contractor. So that's the only responsive person we got.
Wes, will this be adaptable to additional equipment? Should we need it down the road, mobile cameras or what have you, if we decided to expand?
When you mean a mobile camera?
I mean, if we wanted to do a mobile camera to do off-premise filming instead of in this room, if something were to happen in this room and we needed to move to another area, or if a disaster hits or whatever, if we had a mobile camera, down the road, or if we had other
I would have to
communication
check
devices.
with them.
Okay.
I do know that with our meeting streaming service and YouTube, we can quickly set something up if
Okay.
we have to relocate quickly.
Okay,
Like we did at community center.
okay, exactly. That was my question. Thank you. Could we, Dr. Houghton, are you done?
No, go for it.
After you.
So, do we have any plans for the community center? I mean, are these interchange, I'm just,
Yeah, this was specific to council chambers.
thank you.
Can we get a visual timer for public comment instead of having Aaron play with his cell phone? Or is that gonna throw it over the threshold of spending?
I would defer to our finance director, but I'm sure we could find a timer
We
somewhere.
can probably find one that's not even connected to this process, just set it up here and hit the button.
Dana.
Big timer.
You know, I'd like to see that happen. I'm frustrated by watching Aaron fumble with the cell phone.
Well, we'll give you that job, then you won't be frustrated by watching him, you just be frustrated by trying to do
I'll go
it.
buy the visual timer. I mean, I think that would be good for us because it gives the public commenter some idea that their time is running out, besides a buzz from up here and us trying to be polite and move things along. But I think they're not very expensive, it'd be money well spent.
I've watched that, people see those and they still go.
I'm sure they do, but
Still,
at least
yeah,
a warning.
It's not a bad idea.
So if memory serves, our then IT director did most of the AV setup in this room. Were there any third parties that we could have recourse against for failing to set us up properly? I mean, this room is only, what, a year and a half old, and here we are revisiting our needs.
I believe they were, to be nice, they were surprised how things were wired. So there's a lot of, where does this plug go? How is that powered? So I think with partnership between NCI and VC3, NCI is going to be behind the walls and VC3 is in front of the walls. So we're covered by both of them.
And remember, during the next budget time, you get what you pay for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Who's up last? Oh, you're up last.
Actually, wasn't sure we would have time for this.
You was hoping not, right?
Right, so, what you guys have in your packet is kind of results of a brainstorming session we had based on the fact that some of our franchises are due this year. Right now, we have two kinds of commercial activity on the beach. We have what we call our non-franchised commercial activity, which is yoga lessons and surf lessons. And those are awarded annually, and they pay a flat fee to the city. And then we have our franchises, two types: beach chair and umbrella rentals, and three types. And then jet skis, and then surf camps. Paddleboard rentals, I kind of lump it in with beach chair and umbrella rentals. Those are all on different timelines. They were renewed kind of in staggered pattern because of COVID and some other renewals. Right now, the paddleboard and surf camps are up for renewal this year, and then the chair and umbrella franchises are up in April of 2026. So we have some time, but since the surf camps and paddleboards are up this year, in a few months actually, we wanted to kind of maybe take this as a chance to look at the franchise ordinance and see if there's any tweaks that city council feels like need to be made. We haven't really done anything substantial to that ordinance since it passed for a while. So we kind of met in this room and threw everything at the wall to see what sticks. And then we're going to present that to you guys and see what sticks or what you might want us to put back that didn't stick. And we're going to hopefully get some feedback. I know at least some of them are eager to give us feedback, our current vendors. Basically, we award franchises that they're then translated into contracts. And those contracts are they expressly state what you can and can't do. And there's no real wiggle room within them. Earlier this summer, we kind of ran up against that where some changes had been made to respond to market needs that weren't necessarily reflected in the contracts. And also this summer, we had the beach chair, the wedding chair question came up. Our ordinance says right now that we have franchise for beach chairs and no other chairs. And that all other commercial activity, including wedding chair delivery on the beach, is technically illegal under our current ordinance. We met about that, and I believe that Staff's recollection of that meeting was that city council was okay with wedding chair delivery on the beach. And so our first recommendation would be to make that okayness formal and actually change the ordinance to expressly allow wedding chair delivery up and down the beach. Right now, it's a legal gray area. It's not a gray area. Legally, it's prohibited, but enforcement-wise, we have not been enforcing the prohibition on wedding chair delivery. So we would like to, first recommendation, go ahead and formalize that by amending the ordinance to allow wedding chair delivery. We are proposing to pair that with a 25-person or less limit, just to minimize the number of chairs on the beach. Interestingly, just tonight, I found out that wedding chairs and other things for weddings that are in the Folly River Park or the community center have to be removed within 2 hours. Wedding chairs on the beach don't have to be removed until sunset or the tide, whichever is sooner. So if we do allow wedding chairs, maybe we'll go into the ordinance and fix that sort of thing, the time limit they can be there to make it consistent across the different rules. So first up, we're asking that you guys give us go ahead for an ordinance amendment to allow wedding chair delivery. And none of these are here tonight. This is just discussion, just to see what you guys like or don't like, and then we'll work on translating that into ordinances. Second, are what types of beach goods can be rented. Right now, the ordinance is very explicit. It says beach chairs.
Do you want questions as we go?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so in the context of the weddings, and I understand where the 25 number comes from, that's what we defined as an event at a home. But if someone were seeking our approval for an event that's not tied to a home, curious if we would have a way to differentiate those two things. So if somebody's not renting a house, did want to have an event, a wedding, for under 50 people, could we accommodate that?
Unfortunately, most of the weddings that you see, we saw last year, with vast numbers of chairs popping up on the beach, were not tied to a home. So I think the 25 or less, because that's an event. Other than that, you're gonna have to go to the event planning committee, and then you're gonna have to abide by all their rules and regulations. So I think leaving it 25 or less just keeps that there, and you don't have to go through another committee because it's an event of more than 25.
Which makes perfect
What you said,
sense, but there is a way to get to more if they wanted it through.
If they wanted to come through the process, they would be treated like a special event that requires council approval.
But it's gotta go through the committee first, and then it's gotta come back to city council.
Okay, so these are all just process. And so it's gone to the events committee if it's over 25. Okay, so right now what we're saying is 25 is okay. And we're also saying set up and take down. So I'd like more clarity on the length of setup, take down, boom, 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 how
Well,
long?
we already have takedown rules for the park and the community center, and they said they have to come down within 2 hours at the end of the event. We don't have setup rules which limit when they could, but I think a 3 hour, 1 hour before, come down 2 hours after. I mean, whatever you guys want.
Because remember, you're taking up space on the beach.
Oh, I'm good with
And
that.
it depends
That's,
on what time of day it is, depends on how
yeah.
good or bad that is.
Yeah, my questions are more about exactly
Yeah.
setup, take down, boom, boom, boom.
If you guys have any preference on the window before or after,
Okay,
we're open.
sounds good.
So we're gonna allow more than 25, but they just have to go to the,
We might not, because the events committee might come back and say that's a bad time of day, the tide's wrong, we're not gonna support you in this event.
but we're not gonna specifically limit it to 25 only.
Right, it's basically saying if you have 25 people or less, your wedding chairs I'm just making up the times here. Your wedding chair gets delivered an hour before your wedding, 2 hours before your wedding, it gets taken down 2 hours. Fine, the city's not involved other than that notification to Lacey. If you have a wedding with 77 people that requires chairs on the beach, you send the application to Lacey, she routes you through the special events committee and city council.
But to Eddie's point, the events committee won't send it back and say you're in violation of this 25.
No, sir, that's
Maybe
why
like
it's
in
added.
those
this-
No,
yeah.
it's like-
Well, I wouldn't want them to go to the events committee and have the events committee say, oh, no, you're a wedding and you're more than 25, because of this ordinance, you can't do it.
No, the purpose of the event committee review is because it's more than 25.
We should probably write that in here. If you have more than 25, you will have to go to the event.
Well, we'll put that in ordinance amendment.
And it's 25,
Tip,
just for
what
clarity,
did you say?
25 commercial chairs. So if they brought their own beach chairs or there are people standing in addition to the 25 commercial beach chairs, that's all okay?
No, this
No.
says wedding with chairs, it doesn't say what kind of chairs, it says 25 or less. Because if you put out 25, if I go put out 25 chairs and you bring another 30, you know, now you're taking up more space. Well, again, if you're gonna do that, that has to go to the events committee, and they gotta look at the whole process, you know, when it is, what time of day it is, it's July the 4th at noon, you know, that kind of thing.
When we
Do we
proposed
need to
this, we did not
do we need to
anticipate
specify that?
private chairs being brought to the beach.
We just
So
say
we can work on
25
that.
chairs, total 25 chairs or less, just put in total 25 chairs or less, and it doesn't matter if it's commercial or personal.
It's really focused on the number of chairs, not the group size.
Well,
So you could have people standing, people sitting on towels and
Yeah,
the
you-
rest of it.
But you know, if you get 50 people standing there, they're gonna disperse pretty quick, and then they're gone, and the beach is wide open again, and it's not like sitting there for 2 more hours with this place taken up.
What'd you say happened last year?
Well, there was over 100, and it was tied to the Regatta Inn. So they set up all these chairs, and then at the end of the wedding, they did the reception line at the foot of the walkover, so nobody could come or go on the walkover until they got through their 100+ people at the reception, their receiving line, headed back to the Regatta Inn. It was a mess.
And that now later would go to a special events. So if they wanted 100 or whatever, then it goes to special events.
And in that special events, they're gonna have to have, they have to have a police officer there to help direct traffic and all that, for that kind of number of people.
Yeah, usually.
So there's more gets involved in that.
But that's all dealt with at the events
And the
committee
biz
level.
committee, yeah.
Correct.
So next up were the types of goods that could be rented on the beach. Right now, the ordinance is very clear. It says beach chairs and umbrellas. Over time, we've had discussions about coolers, tents, shabumis, various other things. And when we met to talk about it, particularly the discussion was about tents and the current state of erosion in the room on the beach, especially here in the middle of the island. So we're recommending that we continue to prohibit the rental of beach tents and coolers, just to minimize the amount of things that are being rented on the beach. We feel like we've heard the message that we're not aiming to expand the commercialization of the beach. So we're asking if you guys are okay with continuing to limit it to the beach chairs and umbrellas, or if you'd like us to consider allowing other items to be rented on the beach under the franchise contracts.
So it's just the delivery to the beach that we're limiting. So if someone was to rent a tent and deliver it to a vacation house,
Right.
and they took it up themselves, that would be okay.
Yeah, this is purely about on the beach rental. Even the vendors here now, they can't rent tents off the beach, but they can rent tents as you drive over the beach and hand it to you in your car all day, every day. This is purely related to activities which take place on the beach.
Have there been problems with coolers?
Like as far as that are being rented?
Yeah.
But it's just another commercial activity on the beach. And, you know, the council as a whole said we don't want to create any more commercial activities on the beach. So, you know, a cooler or a chair or a tent, a shabumi or whatever it is, you know, if you're gonna rent it and deliver it and set it up, you know, that's another commercial activity on the beach.
It just clearly states in full disclosure what activity can be done, so you don't tack on foot massage and,
Well,
Tex-Mex.
And as far as renting coolers, Mr. Grooms, that vacay group who rides around renting all the bicycles and stuff,
Yeah.
kayaks, bicycles, coolers, chairs. I mean, they rent everything when they deliver it to the house. And that's
Yeah,
what
and then they
Karen-
can take it on the
then
beach
you-
from there.
You towed it to the beach from
Yeah,
there.
okay, well, that's all. Okay.
Laundry service, I mean, a
Well,
dollar's a
it
dollar.
kind of goes along with, we said they couldn't sell or deliver foodstuffs to the beach, but if somebody calls, Rita's and say, I want a hamburger, I can meet you at the walkover and sell you a hamburger, and you carry it to the beach. They can't bring it down on the beach, you know, to deliver it. Same kind of process.
So that was kind of the expanding or not expanding the types of goods. So right now we'll leave it at beach chairs and umbrellas. The second thing was requiring that all rental items, this is kind of a little broader than just our franchise ordinance, but all rental gear delivered to the beach be labeled with the company name and contact number. This is for the vacay gear and the Charleston Davy Beach rentals.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. We've got a number of companies that deliver things to people's houses that go on the beach.
Right.
And we're asking, to the extent that we can legislate it, that all rental companies providing gear used on the beach label that gear with the company name and number.
Okay.
So when we find it in the turtle nest or
Returned or-
et cetera, we know where to take it.
Yeah, and to tell you a story, it kind of goes along with that. So last year, there was an abandoned kayak at a walkover for about a week. So we hauled it off trying to figure out who it belonged to. And we finally found out the rental company it belonged to because it wasn't labeled. We said, come get it. Well, they didn't come get it. Come get it or we're going to get rid of it. They didn't come get it, so we got rid of it. But I mean, you know, that's the kind of, so if it had vacay rentals, and I'm picking on them because they deliver a lot of stuff, tagged on the side of the thing, we would know who to call and say, come get your kayak.
Okay, I got you.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. When you think about it, auto detailing while you're at the beach for the day.
Yeah.
Bring your dirty clothes when you come and drop off, and 3 hours later, when you're ready to go home, folded and pressed. I mean, somebody always comes up with a new idea of how to use the circumstance to make money, and which isn't bad. I mean, I support, people going out there and doing their thing, but I guess it goes back a long ways that the residents just don't want it going on the beach, but they can cater to the house.
Yeah.
So next point is to eliminate the unused jet ski franchise. Our franchise holder for personal watercraft rental has been inactive for the last few years. Basically, it's too congested there, and it's kind of a safety hazard. So he's chosen not to exercise his right to use that franchise. And since we've been several years without it, we're proposing that we just eliminate it completely.
So question on that front, I've seen more wave runner activity on the river than I've seen in a long time, and it's been that way probably for a year. My suspicion is someone from off island is coming to the boat launch and providing a service. Is that ringing a bell such that they provided or sought a business license and they possess it and so on and so forth?
I don't know, I have to listen to it.
So I saw head nodding.
Well, no, I mean, we see the same thing from our end. Especially now with the cameras out there, I see people, but it's not like they're super well labeled either to be able to say like, oh, that's Bud's jet skis or whatever. But I have seen a truck that comes out that's got multiple jet skis on it. I just haven't had a reason necessarily to pull over or something like that.
I know Charleston County was chasing one last year that was doing business with it. Boat landings, not just ours, but other ones too, I guess. And so, they were always on the lookout for that person.
I can ask
Or
Stacy.
people.
I'll ask Stacy to look and see.
Okay. But we could always pull one and find out that.
Yeah, if it's just about timing, you know what I mean? Most of the time I'm seeing them pull out or whatever. I mean, so I'm not like there when they're doing it per se.
Right, and if the operator said, I rented this from ABC Watercraft Inc., we could then back into, they're operating within city limits without business license, and like any other builder for that
Right.
matter.
Does Charleston County Parks have any restrictions on commercial activity at?
You're not supposed to
No
be doing,
exchanging of money is their big rule.
if you pull out to the dock and, I pull up to the dock and you jump on the boat and we leave,
That's the jet skis. The next couple of points are, talking about the base fees for the franchise bids, and that ties into the chart on page 23. So on page 23, up at the top, we have current fees, and they're broken down by the types of franchise, and for the income purposes, this is just the aggregate for all franchises of that type. So this is not the income for any one franchise, this is all the franchise income for that type. And same with the 4% payment. And then over on the far right is the franchise fee. That's the bid amount, which is public, that each franchise put. So income and 4% payment are aggregates. Surf Camp, or the actual franchise fees, are individual, just so you could see what a change would look at. So right now, surf camps, paddleboard camps, chair and umbrella rentals, and jet ski rentals, they pay a business license, and then they pay 4% of the gross reported on their business license as a fee, and then they pay a franchise fee, which is the amount they got set when they bid for that franchise. And so today, or this year, all the franchises combined reported $1,770,225 in gross receipts. The 4% payment that was reported on those licenses gave the city $70,809, and the franchise fees gave $20,802, for a total of $91,611 for the franchise fees and the 4%. The franchise fees themselves vary depending on how folks bid. So you see that the franchise fees paid by surf camps range from $5,250 down to $1,000. Paddleboard camps, one bid $1,000, one bid $2,000. Chair and umbrella rentals are either $2,000 or $1,000, and the jet ski was $1,000. So our proposal is to, for surf camps, raise that base fee from there's no bid minimum now, it's just whatever they bid, and that's how one surf camp bid $52.50 and one bid $1,000. We're raising it to a base bid of $2,500. And then for chair and umbrella rentals, raise that base bid to $5,000. Right now, they're either $2,000 or $1,000. And then for all types, raise the percentage from 4% to 5%. So if you guys do that on the same amount of income, the 5% payment would be $88,511. The franchise fees would be $35,000, for a total of $121,511, and that's about a $32,000 increase annually. That's just based on last year's income. Income can go up or down, so the 4%, 5% payments could go up or down, but at last year's numbers, that revised fee schedule would have netted about $32,000. Not great with math. Yeah, about $32,000 extra.
And what's the reasoning behind the 25% increase in the percentage of payments and the 68% increase of the franchise fees? It's pretty strong, in my opinion, as far as a raise.
They are high, and basically it's to acknowledge that doing business on the beach is a privilege, not a right, and that it has a cost to it. The 1, 2, 3, 4 together, that's about $2 million being made on the front beach, and we're asking for 10% of it basically total. The surf camp franchises, we've got a wide swing in between them, and coming down at 2,500 rather than a percentage increase, it'd actually be about 100% decrease for one of them.
Yeah.
But that's just the base,
Right,
and
that's
you
just
bid the higher amount to get the premier spot, right?
Right.
So the same would be true, I mean, just to butt in on Mr. Grooms's point, it would seem like the 5,000 increase on the chair and umbrella is a little strong to be making that the base bid, when surf camps, it looks like almost like a median price. A couple pay 1,000, one pays right at 2,500, one pays 5,200. It would seem like the chair and umbrellas, you'd make it $3,000 and not $5,000. Would be more.
Yeah, cause I'm doing the math over here too. We would take in 14.33% of the gross income, not 10%. So that's
And
I think currently we probably are.
with all due respect, 80%, 86% left to someone is better than 0% for someone who can't do any business on the beach.
So somebody else can come in and bid higher. They can bid 6 or 7, right?
Okay.
At bid time, right?
So yeah, the bids could be unlimited.
So just like we used the logic about the personal watercraft earlier, not doing business. Why don't we just pull the paddleboard camps? We haven't been doing any business with them. Why don't we just take that out of there too?
Yeah, if I could piggyback on that, so are all of our franchises focused on the beach? So for instance, obviously there's a lot of paddleboard activity on the river. Is that a franchise or is that not a franchise? Strictly beach?
Franchises are generally granted for people using public city-owned property.
So in that
So
case, it would
that's
be
kind of-
county-owned property where they're launching from.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's generally recognized that the city owns and controls the beach access and the beach, which is, can't say the same for the river.
If you're taking notes, I'd be in favor of a $3,000 base rate for chair and umbrella rather than the 5,000.
But did I understand Eddie correctly that that's the minimum threshold, but someone could conceivably offer 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's just me.
We'll bring back options next week.
Option 2.
How about, so that's lowering the base bids. What about the percentage increase from 4 to 5%?
That's a 25% increase. I mean, what do other municipalities charge, or do they? That are similar to what we have set up.
We'll get you a comparison chart for the ones that do have franchises.
Yes.
I'm sure they're all over the place.
Just curious. I'm sure they are, but just to.
Okay, let's move on because we're running out of time.
Oh, well, man. How about paddleboard camps? They have been inactive for the last couple years. Leaving
Just-
people.
Just pull them and
Cross
don't have
that
to worry
bridge.
about it.
When somebody comes up now.
All right.
Especially with our new boat grant.
All right. And I do have this on my staff reports too, so we can continue the conversation. The next one is to change the annual renewals for the non-franchise folks. Just go ahead and make them franchises, and Lee has a great idea about changing the name of all these things to like approved commercial activity on the beach instead of franchises. But the surf lessons and yoga, right now they pay $250. The proposal is to raise it to $1,000. And the logic behind that, there's no data behind it other than right now we're giving people the right to do business on the beach for the low price of $250.
I did have a question on the term, backing up just a bit, from 5 years to 3 years. What is the purpose behind reducing from 5 to 3 years on contracts?
To increase competition.
Yep.
So flipping over to the back, and this one might wait to the staff report. It might generate some discussion. This is just an idea, but 10 years ago or so, 15 years or so ago, the paid parking contractor for the city had the right to run concessions at 3rd Street West.
But he had to clean the bathroom.
Yeah, he cleaned the bathroom too. So that went away when we got a new parking management scheme and has never come back, but we just wanna throw out the idea of maybe bringing that back. Concessions at Third Street West, type of concessions, TBD. It's just putting it out there for you guys to consider, that we grant someone the right to use Third Street West parking lot, which is beside the bathrooms and the ADA walkover, to sell concessions. We did it before. Can we, should we do it again? That's up for you guys.
A la vending machines?
Truck, TBD. Maybe a truck, a food truck, maybe just hot dogs and waters, maybe boogie boards. I don't know. But mainly, when we brainstormed, we were thinking food, some type of food.
Because a lot of families said back then, when we got rid of it, man, I wish y'all hadn't got rid of that, because
What staff member is in charge of working directly with this
In what way?
from the get-go?
Would probably be a couple different people. I would be involved with the contract. Stacy would be involved with the annual payments. Andrew, Eric, department would be involved in enforcement.
Just like it is now.
Okay,
Nothing
it
changes.
just mirrors it.
Do we know what the economic impact would be on the loss of parking space and revenue?
We did do an estimate. I don't have it. We'll get
Okay,
it for you next
yeah,
month.
I'm just curious to
But we
see.
wanted, and part of the reason why we said 10% gross is to cover any loss.
Yes,
of
so I was
parking.
definitely curious to see in any kind of projection perhaps.
quantifying the
Yeah,
concept.
we've got that. We've
Okay,
got that number.
cool.
I think the rest might not be so controversial. Provide each vendor a beach storage box to match the ones we already provide. We like to require that the documentation that the surf camps and surf lessons are supposed to have, they have that on site or at least in the van in the parking lot so somebody can inspect it. Right now, we require them to have it, but we don't require them to make it available. Require that everyone providing services on the beach have a clearly identified point of contact on the beach. Again, this is TBD. It might be a bright red shirt that says beach vendor or something that emergency service or someone can just look out and see and go to. We're lucky that we're small enough that we know most of the folks right now.
So Aaron, quickly back to the boxes, are we suggesting that we would require uniformity
We
in these
would,
boxes?
we would provide them to spec out to match the current ones that we already do.
Because there's a large box on the beach that houses things already.
You know, we've been involved in that. Did we not approve that?
So we wouldn't seek uniformity. Certain existing uses could continue to operate as they are, and then we would provide additional boxes that would probably look and feel a lot alike one another.
Yes. We would provide something, and all the ones we would provide would look the same. Anything that's out there now that's not that, we would address on the case by case. These are just, we're at the brainstorm level here, so we don't have all the details. And then amend the franchise contracts to require that their rental contracts have a copy of the beach rules, smoking, alcohol, plastic, etc., so that when they rent you a beach chair, you also sign that you're aware you shouldn't smoke, drink, or have glass on the beach. And then the second one, or the second to the last one, is just to explicitly put a clause in there that they have to coordinate with public safety. And the last one is to allow franchise contracts to transfer to new companies. Right now, the ordinance technically prohibits someone buying a franchise business. They would be shut down and we'd have to redo the franchise. So we'd like to change that and make the franchise, if someone wants to buy a franchise business and they get a new business license, they can keep going until that term is up.
That's a good idea.
So those, like I said, we had a couple staff meetings and we had a meeting with the mayor. We kind of put everything out there. I know there's some more feedback coming for you guys. So we'll be back next month at the work session to do this again.
Okay, and with that, you got a 5-minute break. Nicole, we can bring it home.